It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But above all, you must avoid being hated. And silence? Silence is the weapon that achieves both without lifting a finger. You've been playing the game wrong. Every word you speak to justify yourself. Every explanation you offer to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. Every time you fill the silence because it makes you uncomfortable, you're bleeding power. And they know it. The most dangerous person in any room isn't the loudest. It's the one who speaks last, or not at all. Think about it. When someone goes quiet on you, really quiet, what happens? Your mind races. You replay every conversation. You wonder what they're thinking. You text first. You explain yourself. You give them everything they wanted without them asking for a single thing. That's power, real power. And you've been giving it away your entire life. But here's where it gets dark. Machiavelli understood something about human nature that most people can't accept. We don't respect what we can predict. We worship what we can't read. The person who explains themselves constantly, they become furniture, background noise. But the person who masters strategic silence, they become the center of gravity. Everyone orbits around their mystery. You see this everywhere once you know where to look. The boss who says 3 words and changes everything. The friend who disappears and suddenly everyone wants their attention. The ex who goes silent and haunts your thoughts more than when they were screaming. They're not playing hard to get. They're playing impossible to forget. Your kindness isn't killing your success. Your compulsive need to be understood is. Every time you over-explain, you hand someone a map to manipulate you. Every time you fill an awkward silence, you teach people that your discomfort matters more than your dignity. What I'm about to tell you might make you angry. The people who drain your energy, they're not confused about your boundaries. They heard you the first time. They just know that if they stay quiet long enough, you'll cave. You'll explain again. You'll compromise again. You'll shrink again. Silence is their weapon, and you keep bringing words to a knife fight. But silence isn't just absence. It's presence without performance. It's the difference between the fox and the dog. The dog barks at every shadow, desperate to be heard. The fox watches, waits, moves only when the moment serves its purpose. When you master silence, you stop being the dog. Remember the last time someone important to you went quiet? How much mental real estate did they occupy? How many conversations did you have with them in your head? How much power did you hand them while they did? Absolutely nothing. That's the game. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's one thing Machiavelli never told you. Silence isn't cruel, it's surgical. It cuts through the noise of social niceties and reveals what really matters. Who panics when you stop performing for them? Who respects your absence? Who only loved your usefulness? Think about your relationships right now. How many of them would survive if you stopped explaining yourself? How many people would still be there if you stopped filling every silence with reassurance? The answer should scare you, but it should also free you. You've been taught that communication solves everything. But sometimes, the most powerful communication is its absence. When someone shows you they don't respect your words, why keep giving them more ammunition? The truth is worse than you think. Pause. Every time you break your own silence to comfort someone else's discomfort, you train them. You teach them that your peace is negotiable, that your boundaries are suggestions, that if they just wait long enough, create enough tension, you'll crack. And you do, every time. But here's the shift that changes everything. Silence isn't punishment, it's self-preservation. It's not about being cold, it's about being calculating. When you stop explaining yourself to people who profit from misunderstanding you, something incredible happens. The users leave. The manipulators find easier targets. And the people who actually value you, they step closer. They work harder to understand. They earn what you used to give away for free. This is what Machiavelli meant by avoiding hatred while maintaining fear. You're not being cruel. You're being scarce. And scarcity creates value in ways kindness never could. Pause. Before I reveal this, you need to understand something. The world doesn't hate quiet people, it fears them, because silence forces others to fill the void. And what they fill it with? Their insecurities, their guilt, their truth. The person who can sit comfortably in silence while others scramble to fill it doesn't just win the conversation, they win the war. Watch what happens in your next interaction. When someone expects you to explain, justify, or defend yourself, don't. Just look at them. Let the silence stretch. Count to 5 in your head. Watch them crumble. Watch them reveal everything while you reveal nothing. That discomfort you feel, that urge to speak, that's your programming. Years of being taught that silence is rude, that you owe everyone an explanation, that your worth comes from your words. It doesn't. Your worth comes from your presence, and presence doesn't need to announce itself. But here's what nobody tells you. Strategic silence isn't about becoming a ghost. It's about becoming a gravity well. You don't disappear. You become selective. Your words become rare, valuable. When you do speak, people lean in. They remember. Because scarcity creates significance. The nice person talks to fill space. The powerful person creates space with their silence. You know that person everyone watches when they enter a room? They're not the loudest. They're the most comfortable with their own presence. They don't need to prove anything because their silence says everything. This connects to something darker. Remember when I said people only respect what they can't predict? Your predictability isn't just boring, it's a liability. Every pattern you show, every time you react the same way, you hand someone the playbook to your emotional states. But when you master silence, you become unreadable, unfuckwithable, unstoppable. The real question isn't why silence is powerful. It's why you're so afraid of it. Is it because you think your value comes from being useful, from being available, from being nice? Or is it because somewhere, deep down, you know that if you stopped performing, some people would leave? Good. Let them. The people who only engage with your performance were never there for you anyway. They were there for what you provided, your words, your comfort, your predictable availability. But when you embrace strategic silence, you filter for something real. You find the people who value your presence over your performance, who respect your boundaries because they respect you. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming calculated. It's the difference between the person who says yes to everything and dies empty, and the person who says nothing and lives full. Hold that thought, because what comes next changes everything. You've been silent before. We all have. But there's a difference between wounded silence and strategic silence. Wounded silence comes from hurt. It's reactive. It's punishment. Strategic silence? That comes from power. It's proactive. It's positioning. When you go quiet from pain, people feel it. They might even pity you. But when you go quiet from strength, they feel that too. And it terrifies them. Because here's the paradox. The person who needs nothing from the conversation controls everything about it. The moment you stop needing to be understood, you become impossible to manipulate. But silence is just the surface. That's only half the story. Jung called it the shadow, the parts of yourself you hide. But what if your shadow isn't your darkness? What if it's your power? What if the reason you talk so much, explain so much, give so much, is because you're terrified of what happens when you stop? You're terrified of being seen as selfish, cold, calculating. But those are just words weak people use when they can't control you anymore, when your silence forces them to face their own noise. The fox doesn't announce its intelligence. The lion doesn't explain its strength. They simply are. And in that being, without the need for validation or explanation, they command respect that words could never achieve. Your kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's fear dressed up as virtue. Your need to explain yourself isn't communication. It's anxiety masquerading as connection. It's okay to be afraid of being seen as difficult. But what's worse? Being seen as difficult or being seen as nothing at all? Because that's what happens when you're always available, always explaining, always filling the silence. You become wallpaper, pleasant, forgettable, used. But here's the permission you've been waiting for. You have the right to disappoint people who need you small. You have the right to let conversations die when they serve no purpose. You have the right to be the last one to speak or to never speak at all. You're not becoming evil. You're just done being prey. Try this tomorrow and watch what happens. When someone expects your usual explanation, your usual comfort, your usual filling of their silence, don't. Count to 5. Let them sit in it. Watch them reveal who they really are when you stop being who they need you to be. But here's where you need to be careful. This isn't about manipulation. It's about boundaries. It's not about hurting others. It's about stopping them from hurting you. The person who respects your silence is the person who respects you. Everyone else, they were just there for the show. And once you stop performing, the show ends. The users leave. The audience disperses. And you're left with something more valuable than applause. Peace. You don't flinch. You don't explain. When necessary, you disappear. Not because you're running, but because you're choosing where to place your energy. And silence? Silence is the ultimate choice. It says, I don't owe you my words. I don't owe you my comfort. I don't owe you anything beyond what I choose to give. Remember this feeling. You'll need it for what I'm about to show you. The game was always there. The manipulation, the power dynamics, the people who take your kindness for weakness. You didn't create it, but now you can choose how to play it. You can keep being the person who fills every silence, explains every action, justifies every boundary. Or you can become the person who moves like silence has weight, who speaks like words are currency, who understands that in a world full of noise, the quiet ones aren't just heard, they're hunted. Because everyone wants to know what you're thinking when you're not saying anything. Everyone wants to crack the code of your silence. And in that wanting, in that wondering, they hand you more power than words ever could. But if Machiavelli showed you the game, Jung will show you why you're playing it. And that's even darker, because the real question isn't how to use silence for power. It's why you're so afraid of the power you already have. Your shadow isn't what you've done, it's what you're capable of. And once you embrace that, once you stop apologizing for your own strength, the game doesn't just change, it ends, and something more dangerous begins. But that's a conversation for next time. When you're ready to meet the parts of yourself you've been hiding behind all those words, the throne was always empty. It was just waiting for someone who didn't need to announce their arrival. Maybe it's time you stopped talking and started ruling.